Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at an album by The Jam. So I'm going to be looking at their third album here, All Mod Cons. So I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So yes, as I said, this was their third album, released on the 3rd of November in 1978. So they had released their second album, and This Is the Modern World, of the previous year, which was not a well-received album. Like, it was very much like a sort of like a rush recorded, like sort of like typical, like sort of like difficult second album. They were also around this time like being forced like by their record label to try and break themselves like in like America. Like they were booked like on like a tour supporting the American rock band Blue Oyster Cult, which was really not like a good fit like for like the Jam. Like very different bands like musically. Like they were not received well like on like this tour. Like I believe like being like booed off stage like on like a number like of occasions. So upon returning home, Weller was under a lot of pressure like from Polydor to write more hit songs. Eventually like all these pressures like would like result in like him suffering from writer's block, like, and like the first batch of songs like which he wrote like for this album like were flat out rejected like by like producer Chris Paddy like for being substandard, and like I don't believe that like any like of like these songs like have like seen the light of day. But soon though something must have clicked like with Weller, like as like he soon like found himself writing a lot more sort of like British-centric songs, a lot more songs which covered sort of social and like political issues, but like also paid homage like to like his 60s influences, and like that very much became the material for All Mod Cons. Now upon its release, it did do a lot to restore the Jam's standing as one of the era's defining bands. It would reach number 6 on the UK charts, and it would continue to garner critical acclaim, being included in Q Magazine's 100 Best British Albums lists and NME's Top 500 Albums list as well. So yeah, like a very much like a well-received, like well-acclaimed album. So I want to now show you my vinyl copy of it here. This is a reissue of it here, like so not like a like original one. There's the back of it there. Really love the artwork to this one here. Like I just think it's sort of like it suits the Jam's like sort of like style like to a T really. And then it's got an inner sleeve of it, just as a sort of collage there. Then lyrics on the back, and a really nice label on this one as well, the kind of like mod roundel there. So yeah, that is the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album's tracks. So I'll score each track out of 10 and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. Okay, so the album kicks off with the title track, All Mod Cons, which is a really short, sort of snappy number to open up the album. I think it really packs a punch like this track, but it's also really well written, like great sort of like construction like the song, like great like harmony vocals like on it like as well. Butler's drumming is like especially really solid like throughout the track. So I just think it is a good opening number to kick off the album. Like reminds me a lot of like Elvis Costello's like opening tracks like on like his first 2 albums, like sort of like quite short, but just a really great like introduction to the album. To be someone must be a wonderful thing. Okay, and then this goes into the next track, which is To Be Someone, which I absolutely love this song. Lyrically, this is Weller's, like, you can kind of see like him sort of like developing like as like a lyricist like on this song. It kind of concerns fame, like, and like how that sort of changes people's perception of you. There's some great lines in it, such as, and the bread I spend is like my fame, is quickly diminished. There's no more swimming in guitar-shaped pools, like no more reporters at my beck and call. So yeah, it is just really well written, like this track here. Like again, like it sort of like concerns like how like sort of like you can be sort of famous like top of the world like 1 minute, like but then like no one cares about you like the next. Have to mention as well, Noel Gallagher has done a really great cover like of this track like many years ago. Like he slows the song down, completely like reinvents it, and like I would say like it's like equally as good as the Jam's original one, like which is a lot more like upbeat, like kind of power pop arrangement on it. But I think yeah, wonderful track there. Would have to give that one a 10 out of 10. and then the next one up is Mr. Clean, which is a more sort of like an observational style song. This one here, like kind of like Weller taking a look at sort of like middle class society. You sort of like inspired like by seeing like all like these bankers like catching out the train like from Woking, like going like into like the sea of London, and like lyrically it's sort of like about like moving up like in like society. Like one of my favourite lines on it is like, "You missed page 3, but the Times is right for you." That's sort of like referencing that sort of like newspapers, like well like different sort of like sections like of like society reads. And like yeah, like I just think yeah, really great song. It's his first sort of like real like Ray Davies sort of esque style track here. Like he would like write like quite a few of these like throughout like his like career, but this one he's sort of like he's taking a look like at like society, and like I think is a really really great attempt like at like a song like in like this sort of style. It's got a great guitar riff on it, great melodic bass playing like as well like from Foxton. All combines together to make what I would consider a Jam classic. So yeah, Mr. Clean would get a 10 out of 10. Now kind of staying with the Kinks influence now, the next track is David Watts, which is of course a cover of a Kinks song. Like they're like quite like an obscure Kinks song that was never like a single David Watts like for like the Kinks. Like it like was the opening track on the Something Else album. And personally for me, I do prefer the Kinks original version, as I've kind of never been a huge fan like of like Foxton's vocals. Like he takes leads like on like this track here. Like I believe like the vocal I think it was like too high like for like Weller to sing, like, or like too low like or something like that. But like anyway, like Foxton sings it, and like this was also interestingly chosen by the label to be the lead single from the album, like released as a double A side with A-Bomb in Wardour Street. And I just think it wasn't a great choice like, for a single. It kind of shows like, well, hey, like there's no good like original material, like so like we've released a cover like as like a single, like which was definitely not the case like on this album. Like there's so many other brilliant like original songs like they could have chosen like for the single. Like for some reason they chose this one, and like it only reached number 25 on the charts there. But yeah, David Watts, like I mean like the actual song itself is great. Ray Davies like composition, like his lyrics are great. It's just for me that the Jam don't do a amazing version of it. Like they don't really like make it their own like in like some ways. So yeah, that one would get an 8 out of 10 there. Like it's still like not a bad track though.
I will return to my English rose for no bonds.
And then the next track up is English Rose, which interestingly isn't actually listed on the album artwork at all. Like apparently like as like Weller like was a little bit ashamed like of this song. It is sort of very different like for like the Jam though. It's a very sort of like a Weller showing his more sensitive side this one here. It's a really beautiful, very tender ballad, like so like lovely lyrics on it, like about longing to see like a loved one, and like definitely like a change I for like the Jam, and like one which I think works really well. Like I quite like I quite like sort of like the vibe like of this song here. As I said, like not included like on like the track listing. Apparently like as well like was ashamed like off the track, but I'd say nothing to be ashamed about there because it is for me another classic. So that one would get a 10 out of 10.
I'm in the crowd, I can't remember my name. Am I only late?
And then we close off side 1 with In the Crowd, which I would say this is a song really off two halves. I think the core of the song is absolutely great. Lyrically, it's kind of about like the mod revival movement and like how people sort of feel like secure, like being like in like a gang. Like there's lines like on it like, everyone seems just like me, they struggle hard to set themselves free and they're waiting for the change. For me though, I'm just not a massive fan of the outro of the song. It kind of ends like with like this sort of like this feedback like driven like ending. For me is a tad drags out. Like would it maybe works like if it was say like maybe about say 30 seconds long, like something like to like a minute, like where like it just sort of, for me it just drones on and on like a little bit. But like an interesting point with this one, like actually like in like the background off like the fade out like of this sort of light, you can hear the song Away From the Numbers like from like the In the City album, and like for me this kind of almost signifies the sort of like the bookending like of like the early Jam like sort of like era, like and like after this song like they moved on like to like the next phase like of like their career, like after like this album like they moved on sort of thing. So yeah, like that was like quite like a nice touch like on like the fade out. But overall though, that for me like is more like which like I'm tempted just to skip on like after like hearing it like for like after like hearing like the outro like for like a little bit. But I would still give the song a 9 out of 10 because the actual main bulk of it, like the lyrics and melody, is all there. It's all top notch stuff. So that one, yeah, would get a 9 out of 10. Okay, and then then the second side opens up with, for me, the weak spot on the album. It's a song called Billy Hunt, which is, yeah, just not a good song, I think. I think it's very much kind of musically sort of like jam by numbers kind of thing. There's nothing like unique going on like this one here. I mean, like, it's not bad, the verse to it. It's just a little bit like unimaginative. Just like it's just then when we get to the chorus, it just becomes, I would say, insufferable. Like the sort of like the Billy Hunt like sort of like thing. It just is just silly, I think. And like kind of like I get like in like the verses, he's again trying to do like a Ray Davies like sort of like character study like on like this sort of like this like guy like Billy Hunt. Like however, I just sort of get the feeling like why should I care like about this guy, like, to like be honest with you. And like I'd say like as well, it was wisely taken off like the American version like of the album, replaced with the future B-side, The Butterfly Collector, which is of course a much better song there. But yeah, like, unfortunately, yeah, Billy Hunt never been a huge favourite of mine. We'll give it a 5 out of 10. Like I mean, like it's not terrible. It's just for me like one of like the weaker tracks like in the Jam's discography.
It's too bad that we had to break up. Too much said for us to
Thankfully though, the album does redeem itself with It's Too Bad, which I just really like this one here. Like I think it's quite an underrated track like on the album, this one. I love the sort of like the dual vocal like of Foxton like a Weller, like when like they sing together, like it's just quite like a unique like, sort of like vocal sound like what they have. Lyrically like kind of like about like the breakup like of like a relationship, like it's too bad like that we had to break up, and it's too late for us to ever make up, like that kind of thing. Like quite basic lyrics, but you know, sort of like musically like it's got like a like engaging like riff like on like the track. But like also like there's a bit like after like the chorus like where like these sort of like these rolling chords remind me like of like the Beatles track She Loves You, like kind of like the duh, 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 like sort of like bit like sort of like right so like out at the end like of like the chorus to this audio. But yeah, another really good track there. We'll give that one a 9 out of 10. And then we come to a track which is possibly my favourite on the album. It is Fly. And I just love this song. I think that this one, it starts off very similar to, say, English Rose. Very sort of like romantic lyrics, like quite sort of quiet, like acoustic track. Like I love, like it's like, it goes like the way the sunlight flips across your skirt makes me feel like from another world. And yeah, they're just quite nice, like adolescent, like sort of like romantic lyrics, like. But then I love the twists and turns the track takes. It reminds me like a lot of like say like a McCartney track, like say like Uncle Albert, like or like something like that. Like kind of like it doesn't stay like in like the one place like for too long. This year, like lots of like different like sort of like bridges like and like guitar sections like throughout it. It's just a real journey, this song. Like I think like really sort of like almost like makes you feel like you're flying, like sort of thing. So yeah, like I've always loved that track, Fly. Would get a 10 out of 10 from me.
The place I love is a million miles away.
Okay, and then the next track up is called The Place I Love, which I think is another really great quality song. It's quite a bittersweet track, this song, kind of like about dreaming like of like a place that you have like fond memories of, like and like how like it's always like in like the back of my mind. But this is kind of like met like with like a great sort of like power pop like arrangement. It just moves along really nicely, this track. Like again, like great guitar riff, like great drumming like as well like from Butler, like how that tempo changes like a little bit like throughout the song. So I think that works really well. So yeah, Place I Love, another classic, another 10 out of 10.
I found on Wardour Street. Blown up the western, now it's
Okay, and then the penultimate song is A-Bomb in Wardour Street, which is which this one begins. Great example of sequencing like with this song here. Like I love like how when like the Place I Love like sort of like ends. Like it sort of like it transitions beautifully like into this song. Like it is just like one of them really great sort of genius like sort of like album transitions. And like yeah, but this song though is very different from The Place I Love. This one is a lot more angry, a lot more angsty, like with Weller singing about the destruction of London, like the use of atomic weapons. And it's for me maybe the last sort of real punky song the Jam did. And so like after this it went sort of more sort of like power pop, like mod sort of style. Like this one though, he still sounds very sort of like angry, like a lot like built up, like sort of built up, like sort of like teenage frustration like in like this one like a little bit. But for me though, it's never been one of my top draw like jam songs. This one here, like as like if like I say to rank like all their singles, this one would probably come like somewhere like in like the lower half for me. But still a good song though, and like yeah, we'll give that one a 9 out of 10.
And I'm down in a Tuesday set of midnight.
And then we get to what is probably the most well-known, most well-loved, most talked about song on the album, which is Down in the Tube Station at Midnight, which this one has a very interesting backstory. This one, like the story goes that Weller had been had this song like sitting around like as like a poem like for like a wee while. However, he could not work out like a tune to it, so he apparently like threw like these lyrics like in like the bin, and it was when like producer Vic Copsmith-Haven like apparently found like these lyrics like lying like in like a bin, and like was very impressed with them, he encouraged like Weller like to work on the song, like and like encouraged like the band like to come up and like persevere with the track. And I'm so glad that he made them do that, because this is just an absolute classic. I think like lyrically it's so full of description and detail, like about like a guy basically like on like his way home like from work, like where like he gets beat up like by like these far right thugs like in like a tube station. The spine like off like the song like is like Foxton's bass playing, like that just provides like a really good foundation like for like all like these lyrics like and like imagery like sort of like grow off as a lot of sort of tension like in like the music. And like yeah, it was also like one of the most successful singles like up to this point, reaching number 15 like on the charts. So yeah, that one is an absolute classic. Great way to finish off the album. Okay, so overall this album would score 91%. So I think this is a great record here. Like I'd say, like it's pretty much flawless apart from Billy Hunt. Like I would say that that's a song that was sort of like it does let the side down, that track. But still, throughout the album, the band dynamic is very tight. I mean, they've been playing together since I think 1972. So like by this point, like they knew each other inside out musically. So like that really does show on this album. I think as well, like it was well like expanding like his like sort of songwriting, but also like his musical palette as well. Like sort of like writing more like observational songs, but like also a lot more softer tracks, like showing like for me like the Jam were light years ahead like of like their punk contemporaries like by this point. Now I did a few years ago do a Paul Weller album ranking, like where like I looked at like every single like Weller album which he made like up to about 2015 like I think, and like this is one which came out on top, and I could probably still stand by that. Like I would say, like I can certainly say like this. I could certainly say that this was probably like the Jam's like best, like most consistently good album. Like I would say, like and like in terms like of like Weller's songwriting, like he come on like so like leaps and bounds like since This Is the Modern World. So yeah, definitely a great album here from the Jam. All Mod Cons. Like yeah, definitely give it a listen like if like you're not familiar with it. So that's been my review of All Mod Cons. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.